Hey, good morning. I'm Scott Tempesta. You probably know that. And you might also know that I'm from the website Sailing Anarchy, which I think maybe a few of you read, but you're really going to want to come and read this and see this, because today we're lucky enough to be joined by Bouwe Bekking. If you don't know him, maybe you haven't been paying a lot of attention to, especially the Global Ocean Race, now the Ocean Race. Bouwe, welcome, man.
Yes, good day. How are you?
Good, I'm good. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule.
Well, it's quite quiet over here. You're probably the only one who's working.
Well, I'm trying. It's what poses as work, right? I don't know, but I'll tell you something. I mean, it's an interesting spot that a lot of us are in. From my perspective, advertising revenue is getting tough. I mean, a lot of people are pulling back the reins a little bit. They're holding off what they otherwise would normally do. And so, I got to work doubly hard, to earn a little bit of money, which is okay because I was kind of slacking anyway. But, it's bumpy now. I'm just hoping that it doesn't get disastrous, which I know that it could. That leads into a question I want to ask you, and then I'll get to a little bit of your bio, and then we'll get to some reader questions. Sound good?
Yeah, all right.
So sponsorship money. Let's talk about that. So I see your 65 is called Childhood and Childhood One. Is that right?
That's correct.
What is Childhood?
Childhood is a foundation actually founded by Queen Sylvia of Sweden. And it's a little bit over 20 years ago. And she realized how much sexual abuse and just abuse in general of small children there is. The parents should be the safe haven for kids. And she just realized that it was that it is actually terrible in most of the countries. Some really shocking numbers there are worldwide. So she started that foundation, and it just keeps growing by the year. And I think now, especially now in this time with the coronavirus going on, so many kids actually staying home now and actually getting more abuse than ever before, because the opportunities are there, and that's of course hugely sad.
Are we talking primarily in-home abuse?
Well, it's he's speaking now on the internet, so that's another huge issue right now, because of course kids are getting bored, and of course they lurk around the internet, getting in contact with the wrong people. So that's a massive issue as well.
Yeah, that is huge. So how do they sponsor? They have money to sponsor you?
So that's the first thing. We sailing for their basically to make recognition for their name. So they don't put a penny in, because all the money, of course, has to go to the foundation to help children in general, and setting up houses, safe houses. So they don't spend the money on us, but we have especially a company in Sweden. It's called Sletto. They were the initiative taker. They put in a little bit of funding, so that we actually could sail for a year under the banner of Childhood, and we have a contract until the end of September.
Okay, and is that likely to renew with you guys?
Well, that's one of the things what we are speaking about. But of course, a lot of things have happened in the last 2 months, so we just have to see what is happening. But very honestly, we're not putting all our eggs in one basket. We have to keep looking at other opportunities, because we know, like, sometimes how life goes. You have certain expectations, and they're not happening.
It's interesting, because it's not interesting. It's frankly a little depressing. Money was hard enough to chase down for the things that you guys do. You top skippers have been able to get properly funded. You've had some fabulous programs. But now in this climate, I don't even want to know how hard it is to dig up substantial money. For example, what are you looking for? Like, if you get a primary sponsor like you've had in the past, what are they looking at?
Even in the past, like when we had Brunel, we always believed it was the best setup to have actually more companies, because it's great, like in the Telefonica days, when you have one sponsor. But we still should remember that we had some smaller ones as well, and that's basically the setup what we've done with the last two campaigns. So Brunel was the main sponsor, but we had a lot of smaller ones, because just the synergy what there is in between the companies and their partners, that was just creating business for them. So rather just have a big family because I think it supports each other very good because they actually can make business. A little bit of advertising helps as well, but just doing
Right.
the business, that was, I think, the main thing that we had in our last 2 campaigns.
And so going forward, do you have any idea about how many teams do you think are actually committed and can commit?
No, I don't know. We know that for a matter of fact that there's 2 campaigns officially announced. That's the Mipuri Foundation with the Volvo 65, and then Charlie Enright's 11th Hour Racing. And we know as well Boris Herrmann he said that he wants to participate in the IMOCA. There's another German team. But I think that the really nice thing for this time is actually that all the 8 Volvo 65s have been sold. They're owned by a team. And of course, that's a really good start point to have. And I think that will make life a little bit easier, because if you have the asset, you're having the boat, then you actually can invite even potential sponsors. You can give them that whole sense of what the campaign actually is all about. And you have a big part of your budget you have already in place.
Sure.
And of course, the security that you actually can start, because that was in the past, it was not sure. If you didn't have the money and somebody else was in front of you, it would be a tough one to go to a potential sponsor or partner and say, well, thank you very much, but there is no boats available anymore. So I think the starting point for all the teams is way more secure this time.
Do you anticipate any new builds?
No, not what I heard of, and I don't think it's necessary as well, because I think the 8 boats who are there, they are in really good shape, and I think that was one of the really nice things as well for all the sponsors in the previous races, because there was some breakages on rigs, but in general all the teams just made it safe to the finish, and that is of course that's a huge pro what we're having. So there's right now not that I know if that there's going to be a new build.
What do you look for in terms of money from a main sponsor? What do you need from, let's say, a primary sponsor? What do you need to successfully run one of these races?
Well, I think just if you just believe the numbers, what the Ocean Race has been using, it just ranges from like 10 to I think some teams like in the last race went nearly up to 20 million. Of course, the more people you have employed, the quicker the money runs out. We were one of the lower end campaigns, but it's you have to be very honest. And I think in that sense, maybe the Dutch are a little bit a bit tricky with money, because we know how to spend it well. And that is, of course, it's always finding that balance. And the good thing was our campaign leader, Gideon Messing, he did the race 3 times himself. He's just say, every penny has to go to the sailing team first. And all the poo-ha, we're not flying business class. If you can fly only 2 people out instead of 10 people out, there's only 2 people going. So spending the money wisely can save you a lot of money in the end.
How much
crew will you thing, if you don't have more, you have amount X, you never should overspend. And that's, of course, that's really important. And it was one of the things what we had as well. EY, I think you probably know that firm. It's a tax and law firm. They did our books. So as soon there were some alarm bells going off that maybe the expenditure was a bit more than actually the income that we had. And of course you get in control straight away. So that kept it all very honest, and we always stayed within the budget. And that's, of course, that's a key for doing the race, because it would be a disaster if you have to knock on the door again and say, dear sponsor, we like to ask for a bit more money because we can't make the finish.
They don't want to hear that. That's the last phone call they want to get from you, Bo.
Well, it's not only, it's our credibility is on the line then as well. But I think just even like for other teams maybe who are watching right now, just be cautious with the money. Don't overspend. Just make sure that you always stay within the budget.
Do you find the teams are chasing some of the same money?
No, I don't think so. Because it's not like that there's all these companies just are there to grab, because you have to get the right entrances, you have to get the right approaches. If you go to a marketing manager, good luck, I would say. Of course, it's nice that they're doing a fantastic job, but then you have to make that step from the marketing manager to the board or to the management, and ideally to the CEO as well. Once you can sit on the table with the CEO, you might be able to get some steps forward, because it's in the end always it's a big investment what they have to do, and in the end they take the responsibility for it. And of course it is a fantastic result. Well, just the ROE on just on the investment what they make. So it is really profitable for them, but still it's a lot of money. And if you have shareholders, of course, a shareholder maybe rather sees that there's some benefits going to them instead of that it goes to a campaign. But maybe in the long run, even will still be better for him. But people are quite short-sighted in a sense.
It's interesting how many sponsors there are in various boats that really don't seem to have a direct connection to sailboat racing. I mean, you found that to be true, I'm sure, in some of your quests for money. What's the pitch, if you will, to a company that, you know, maybe isn't directly, like I said, connected to sailboat racing? How do you convince them that this is a place that they should spend their money?
Well, I think first of all, and I think you would agree with me, we have the most fantastic sport what there is, and it's incredible. And I think another really important aspect is it is a 9 months race, visiting all the continents there are. I think there's 10 stopovers again. So if you have an international company operating international, they know for sure that they will be in several stopovers where they can invite their clients. But I think another really great aspect is they can bring the clients on board of the boat. And I think the sailing experience, I think that is one of the really icebreakers what they're doing for their business, because the people go out for a sail, they can drive the boat. Which other sport they can drive the boat actually in a race like we have in the Pro-Am races? And just, I would say 99.9% of the guests who have been sailing on board, they're coming up with a smile from here to here.
Sure.
Once they're coming back, maybe have a beer, then they can start talking business. So it's a really nice way to get close to your clients or potential clients. And yeah, what I say, it can break the ice, our sport.
Will you carry over, how much crew do you carry over from the last race to the next one? I mean, are you always looking for new blood? Zero.
Because it's one of these things, and I always say it, because a lot of girls and guys have been riding, of course. I'll be very keen to join, but you cannot make any commitments until the money is in the bank. And it's even for myself. I'm not getting paid because there is no money. And once you're having the budget secured, then you can start looking through maybe to the emails, and then of course you're making press announcements, and then really it starts stacking up. Okay, who can we take and who can we not take? One of the good advantages we had last time when we were only had the funding like 3 months before, that the guys from the America's Cup were available, great sailors, because other campaigns who were way earlier than us, they had all their people secured, and then do you want to kick them out because somebody like Peter Burling or Carl Langford is available? You're most likely not doing that. But so there was in a way, it was a big advantage for us that we could get still some very good people, even when you were late, because that's the great thing about a one design boat as well.
But aren't teams snapping up people? I mean, and I know it's directly related to funding, I know, but I mean, there's a lot of skill out there, but there's certainly different levels of skill. Aren't teams snapping up people, or they already have a core? Or how does that sort of work?
I think this time it's a little different, because maybe the Mipuri Foundation had made an announcement and they have the funding in place. They probably are the first who can fish in the pond, and there are very good sailors out there. And of course, you might have a wish list, and we all know who are the fast drivers, who are the technicians, who can work, who good team players. So some good girls and guys, they're most likely already snapped up by them. I'm not sure, you have to ask them, but that is one of the things, of course, where you always look into who could be coming in our team and how will the chemistry be as well, because it's not only being a good sailor. And I think that was one of the good things what we had in the last race. We had fantastic sailors, but as well really skilled people who could form a team. And I think that's why we came good in the end, I think, because we just knew where we had to put the focus on, and we were stuck together to each other, believed in each other, and we got better and better. And we nearly won the race. We didn't win, but there is a lot of other aspects about it as well, because we know in the past a lot of teams faltered halfway and never came out of a dip. And it is just a matter of just keep improving, keep getting better. And yeah, that's of course. So if you have a team early on and you keep building and keep getting better, then you will be pretty hard to beat.
In fact, I believe that one of your mottos is never give up. It's a book.
That was a long time ago.
Oh, so you're willing to give up?
No, it's not. It's not with the ocean race, but the book is from Telefonica Blue, and
right.
It's just one of these things.
It's good.
I really wanted to do something. I wanted to write a book because I think it's interesting, and as well as a lot of people always ask, like what we're doing right now. People like to hear some backgrounds.
For sure.
But it's just, and that's one of the things. Never give up was just the thing about. We had some bad days. We had some really bad days, but you just have to keep plugging away and just make the best and just believe in yourself and in your team. And I think that's why that slogan came up.
You've done 8 of these races, is that right?
That's correct.
That's right. In fact, I'm going to read a little bit off of your Wikipedia. He first sailed in the Bouwe Ocean race during the 1985-1986 Whitbread aboard Phillips, then sailed on Winston in 1993-94, Merritt Cup 1997-98, Amer Sports 1 during 2001-2002, skippered Movie Star 2005-2006. He finished 6th, but that was the one that we had the tragedy and maybe
little breakage.
Whoops. And I have a reader question about that for sure. And then went on to do 2008-2009 on Telefonica Blue, Team Brunel 2014-15, 2017-18. You did your 8th on board Team Brunel, finishing 3rd place. And you have the title of World Volvo Ocean Legend. I want to. Never. No one's ever going to give me a title like that. Damn it. For good reason. Is this any? So, do you ever get tired of this? I mean, is it just like, oh my God, how many more? No.
I think it's just one of these things. I think all the people who are watching, you like to go on the water. Even like now, you're not sailing that much. I like to go to the beach, who's not that far away from me. Have a look now. It's just the water is just pulling, and then I think, especially of course, if you're not getting seasick, because it's just one of these things, of course, what you don't want to be. I've never been seasick. It may be days that I wasn't feeling that flesh, but it's still one of these things. It is just a fantastic sport. I like to be out on the ocean with a team, and it's even like in the last race as well. Just before we rounded Cape Horn, the conditions were miserable, and sometimes you just have to punch the guys and girls. Say, just look around, just let it sink in. This is something, but not a lot of people can do, and we're so fortunate that we can do it because it's it is just nearly unscribable. We have a fantastic sport.
It's amazing, and I know it's grueling and it can be a grind, and I'm sure that keeping crew morale up sometimes is a little difficult. But it's funny, you said you just love to be on the water. The water you like to be on, Bo, is a lot different than the water some of us like to be on. I mean, you are so committed to this, and I
think it's the same. It's the same. I might be sailing around the world, but I think if you just like the young kids in the Opti, they're having that same feeling because if they go on the Optimist for the first time, wherever they're sailing from. If you're sailing for the first time on the Skagerrak here where I'm in Denmark, that looks like an ocean. They're on a tiny dinker, and they manage to sail that little boat. What they're having, they're feeling the waves, they're feeling the wind. They can actually make the boat go faster. They're making their first surfs. So that same excitement you're having in whatever boat you're sailing, because it's just being one with nature. So I might be on the ocean, but I think it's, even when I sail in my sniper over here, it's the same thing. I just love it.
You know, we all have that thing, don't we? Have that passion for this sport, and it almost doesn't really matter, what form it takes in. You happen to like this, but you like everything else. I mean, I've discovered the joys of day sailing with my girlfriend. We go out on a little Harbor 20 and we just go day sailing in San Diego Bay. And sometimes you lose sight of that. When you race, it becomes just a mission to do as well as you can. Sometimes, like you said, you don't really kind of enjoy the environment, but when you go day sailing, it's kind of took me back a little bit to like, oh yeah, oh yeah, just the
Yeah,
basics.
but I guarantee you, even when you're sailing with your girl, you see another 20-footer, 100 or 200 feet in front of you. You want to overtake these guys or girls sailing with the other one, because
I'm not gonna lie.
they're just sitting in races. That is just, you always will have that little bit of competition. And of course, there's a lot of people who don't have that. Great, because they still can enjoy, maybe have a sip of wine or a beer when they're doing their cruise and still enjoying life.
You know, that is absolutely true. I mean, I'll see a larger boat, you know, and I'll go, okay, I'm going to see if we can get that thing. You know, I'll trim pretty hard and I'll steer really good. And invariably, the boat I'm going over is like a Catalina 34 or something. It's not very well sailed, but you know, it's like, I got that one. So that never seems to go away no matter what, right?
Oh, that is it's just a great feeling always. And that's of course in general with competition. You're starting something, you want to win, but yeah, just if you can get that same thing, having that combination, winning of course is fantastic. It's a great feeling. But just if you see something, you maximize what was in it for that day for your team. That can give a lot of satisfaction as well. And a lot of people should just remember to realize that, like what I said, how fortunate they are that we can sail on fantastic boats and be together with a team.
Right, for sure, that's true. As I mentioned earlier, we have a bunch of listener, that's from my days in radio, listener questions, reader questions for you. And so let's go through some of these. All right. Miffy wants to know, what did you learn during the last race? And if you had another go, how would you have composed his team differently? What did you learn sailing with mixed teams?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I can talk probably hours for it. What should we have done different? Let's say the last leg, we should have followed Dongfeng. We maybe should have overtaken them. I think that's always a pretty hard one. Of course, the big one would have been, if we would have been earlier together with the team, we would have had more hours on the water. I think we would have been more competitive from the beginning. The mixed team thing it was something interesting, and probably people remembered we had again a psychiatrist as such, like a mental coach in the team, because it's one of these things. It is a male sport, and especially if you're sailing for a long time together, I just could see we have to get the females on board who really fit in. And if you don't have time before to sail with a lot of females or with a lot of guys, it's not only females, but guys, it's the same thing. There has to be that mutual respect and understanding. And in the beginning, we were not good at that. That was just not the right mixture what we had. And we made some changes, and in the end, we had the right mixture. So if you can start way earlier, you probably can work on that mixture, and that will just help in general your performance a lot.
Interesting. That seems to be a theme through a lot of what you're talking about, is getting started early, building the team, right?
In the past, it was always the team who had the most money and won the first leg. That was in the days from the Volvo 70s, the Volvo 60s. They were most likely going to win the race as well. But now with the one design, it became a little different. And we could see it in the last two races. The team who won the first leg didn't win the race overall. So it is, there is more opportunities in the one design, I think.
No doubt about that. Let's see here. Fonty wants to know, in hindsight, do you think the Iker Martinez did something way more than the Gibbets to make up time in the leg around South America? It seems he had a bit less inhibited to follow the rules and win at all costs.
She's talking about the Volvo 70.
I believe
that
so.
Was the race I didn't do, I think. It is probably the one where the Telefonica one was it, the one where Puma was in, and where Groupama won.
Yeah, and Telefonica.
Yeah, I'm actually not 100% sure what happened over there. I think it's just one of these things. I think they were accused of using a storm jib. I think what I recount.
Right.
But I think it's not. There's 10 or 12 other people sitting on board as well. So I think it must have been a pure mistake of them. Maybe I've sailed in a lot of breeze before, had to stay, had to storm jib up because the conditions were there, and then they put another sail up, and because they were tired and they probably forgot to take the storm jib down. So it's a hard one to say. That's more, I think, a direct question to Iker and to the rest of the guys, because I was sitting on the sofa at that race. I missed that one out, unfortunately, because it was a great one, and yeah, it's a tough one.
Interesting. Let's see. Okay, he's talking about the jib incident. Let's see. Oh, Iker had one more sail. Here we go. Miffy has another question. Like, really, is there anything to be gained except, okay, hang on. Sorry, it's more of the nonsense. All right. Boy, they really are following that one. Another sailor wants to know, what was it like to have Dongfeng sneak inside along the Dutch coast to take the win? When did you know you made the wrong choice? On the other hand, how big was the risk they took? It seems they hit ground a few times.
Of course, it's one of these things. We knew when we were in Gothenburg, you're doing the last leg, 3 points, 3 boats equal points. The winner takes it all, and you're looking in the options, because especially just the way how the last part of the race is, we had the traffic separation schemes, and unfortunately, I say unfortunately, we're not allowed to cross them. They're just an obstruction. And there was 2 ways to sail around the obstruction, either follow the Danish and the German coast and then go over the top of the Netherlands, or go further offshore. Just specifically to this question, Andrew Cape, he has been looking in all the options before. And even when we started, because the weather forecasts are pretty good, he said that it's probably going to be a 50-50, and just on making that choice. But I think we made our decision because probably people remember at one stage we were 20 miles behind. We had a shocker during one night. We missed the cloud. We were on the wrong side, lost out badly. And then slowly but surely we clawed back. And then off the Norwegian coast, actually debris started coming in. And yeah, we were hauling the mail because I think we had a setup on the boat that we were fast. But we were still behind Dongfeng and Mafra. Mafra was actually in the lead. And then we just took the decision. Our weather model said there was a difference of 5 minutes going offshore or going the inshore route. And then we said we are about 4 to 5 miles behind the other guys. We're going offshore because as well, it's the model what we use most of the time in the race, what we believed in. So we're going to follow that one, because if we follow the other guys, we might be really fast, but it will be difficult to overtake them. So then we said we believed the model what we had, and and we knew that Dongfeng for sure would go inshore because there was the Arpège, the French model, had the inshore route winning by 5 or 10 minutes. So we knew that they were going that way. And then the strange thing, all of a sudden, Mafra changed course, and they changed and they headed up because we were quite a bit higher on the run line, and they started coming towards us, and the 5 mile lead from them ended up in a deficit of half a mile. So I think they let it go because they thought these guys are on form. They won all the legs before, or the last 3 or 4 legs. So they said, Brunel must have it right, Andrew must have it right. And they came with us, and Dongfeng won it. And then the moment when we realized that we didn't, that we would lose out against Dongfeng, was that there was a wind shift predicted, and the wind shift actually only came like 2 hours too late. Normally, it's in the where we are. The weather systems move relatively fast. If there's a prediction, normally the change of wind direction comes earlier than what the prediction said. And this time it actually was stalling, and the shift didn't come, and then we knew, oh shit, we're not going to win this one, and Dongfeng is going to take it.
They sure did. On a decision like that, specifically this decision, right? Everything's on the line. All the miles and the days and the nights, it's all on the line. Any of you three. Was there any, the discussion must have been fairly intense about that. Was there any dissension on board? Like, no, I think we should go here?
No, there wasn't actually. And I think that was the great thing about the team that we had, because together with especially Andrew Cape and Peter Burling, we were discussing these things, of course. And I always say, and I just quote KP on that. You make a decision to be the right decision, and that is just, I think that is just the key thing. If you now make a decision somewhere in life, you're doing it because you want to make it right. And so we believed it was right because, as well, like what I said, our model had us winning with 5 minutes. Looks tiny, but 5 minutes we know has been a win and a loss very often in this race. So we took the decision what we thought was the right one. That there was another aspect that if we would follow the other guys, what we could of course have done, even with the speed what we had, it's just looking in the crystal ball. Will you overtake him or will you not overtake him? But we believed our model said that was the right way to go, and we knew the Apache model because we had that as well, and that said it was going the other way. So, and then you have to make your choice, and we thought we made the right choice. And that's what Mafra thought as well. So then they left Dongfeng. They're probably pulling really their hair out right now.
Right. I mean, it was so intense that, I was pulling for you guys, no doubt. I probably cursed you by pulling for you, but I was watching you guys, and you looked so strong for so long. I mean, it was impressive. And then really there was a point where I think you guys were virtually it looked like you were all tied at one point. And it just came, I mean, a little bit of a rolling of the dice, right? I mean, you all had information, and then you all have to make a decision, and the one you made seemed more right, but only by a little, correct?
Yeah, it was all tiny little margins, and you just know a lot of legs before have been like the one in Gothenburg. I think we were 2.5 minutes ahead of Mafra. Or was it in Cardiff? I think we finished 1.5 minutes ahead of Axel Nobel, and the same was in Newport, Rhode Island, and we finished a minute behind Mafra there. So it is tiny margins, and then 5 minutes it can be a long distance. So you make that choice. It had to be the right choice.
Especially in one designs, right? 5 minutes can be a long time.
It can be a long time.
Absolutely. All right.
But I think one other aspect as well, I think, and a lot of people didn't realize, because we were going fast. I think we were in the heavy reaching conditions. We had probably the best mode. But then we had a tiny corridor, and Axel Nobel, who was just ahead of us, they were actually match racing us. So we were just digging around with each other. And of course, that's yard racing. And I think that's one of the great things. And I think it hasn't been addressed a lot, because Simi on Team Pond, he wanted to win, of course, as well, coming into The Hague. And so they sold their socks off to keep us behind. But then in the meantime, Mafra just came closer and closer to us. So we had a great battle out there, and it would have been nice to have that live on television, that moment, because it was so intense over there. And everybody knows now the outcome, but it was just great racing.
It's interesting how the one design factor has added another layer of intensity to what you guys are doing, right? It's not enough that you're racing the 70s or whatever. Everybody's a little different, but it's still really intense, really hard. And then you have boats are basically one design. Well, they are one design. So it adds a lot more sort of inshore fighting technique, rather than maybe looking at a long range thing where the boats can separate and be a lot different. Here, boats are the same, and you guys did come down to these really, really close finishes. That's a whole nother factor to what you guys are now doing, correct?
Well, but it is still amazing, and you know it as well, racing one designs. It's some boats just have an edge in some conditions, and it's just you cannot explain it. Just some guys go like a rocket upwind, having exactly the same sails, the same boat, and they just go better than you go, and that can be bloody frustrating. And then on the other hand, of course, if you have the heels like what we had, especially in the big breeze, that is, of course, that's a nice thing as well. But it's just sometimes, because there's the best world sailors on the other boat as well, and you just sometimes it can be so frustrating. So why are they faster than us? How is it possible? And you can talk and talk and talk, and you never catch up in a certain mode, and that creates a lot of gray hair.
or no hair. Oh, I mean,
no hair.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Even though it is probably a shop-worn catchphrase from the race, life at the extreme, what is it that kept bringing you back to that brutal, harsh experience? Was it the one that got away / desire to do better results-wise? Or is it simply the experience itself, or some combo of both? I know you kind of addressed that, but See if you
Yeah, I
can
think
tackle this one.
Of course, for me, it's quite easy to say, I never won that race. So that's of course, that's a driving factor. That's very clearly. But yeah, what I just like about is building up a team and being out on the water. And sometimes I'm really having moments as well where I said, why the heck have I done this? I could have sitting on the couch and followed the race on the computer. But I think that's the moments as well when you have to just realize, and you know, there's 7 or 8 boats teams out there who are going exactly through that same mindset. You can ask everybody. Everybody will have a moment in the race where they say, "Why the heck am I doing this?" Either for having the family back home, or just it's just nasty. And then it's just the nice thing when you're coming in the harbor, you forget so quickly. And I think that's always amazes me that you still can charge that battery so quick again,
Right.
and leave behind what was maybe a horrible period in your life, because it is some horrible moments. But then, yeah, what I just say, like if you can see the video back where you're blasting with 2 or 3 reefs with a small fractional, then you just say, "Holy smoke, this was fantastic."
Here's a maybe we'll wrap up with this question. I know there's a lot of questions about the keel incident, and you know, rather than just going over that, let's finish this from Sunseeker. From Phillips Innovator to Brunel, which boat and race is most enjoyable to you? Which do you prefer, the current 24/7 video and reporting on board, or the time before all of that?
Well, I say right now, the last race what I did, because the sailing is just fantastic. I know with Phillips Innovator, we were maybe 300 miles. I think we did 302 miles. It was massive. But the sailing has just evolved so much, and just the way how the boats are sailing, it's just fantastic. And as well, I think the aspect of being the one design, I think that's really a thing. But what appeals to me as well, Phillips Innovator was an aluminum boat, only 2 feet shorter than what we sell this time. But of course, it was a complete different era. Let's call it that way, because I can honestly say we probably have been pushing as hard in these old days than what we've done in the last race. But of course, it's over the years you're getting more experience, you're getting better in certain conditions. I think you can prevent a lot of disasters. The sail breakages, for example, was one of the things. I think with Phillips Innovator, every leg we blew out all the spinnakers what we had, and the guys were just continuously repairing. So it's just so much more pleasure to sail, like in the last race when nothing breaks, and you can just push, and of course that was one of the things as well with the Volvo 70s, because these boats were strong, or they are strong, the Volvo 65s, and the 70s, they were just animals. They would go faster and faster and faster, and then they would just fall apart, basically. That was basically what happened. So here it was just, you keep the pedal down, then you're looking pretty good.
Interesting. Somebody has a question about navigators, and I'll run this one by you, Bo. Stan Honey and the late Mark Rudiger were regarded as 2 of the best navigators in the business. Who is the best you worked with? Who do you regard as the best now?
Oh, that's a tricky one, because there's a lot of really good guys out there, and I've been fortunate to sail with a lot. So I can only speak about the guys where I've been sailing with. Andrew Cape, of course, is one, because I've been sailing 3 times around the world with him. Why? Because I like him. He has his own very specific style. Then Will Oxley. I've been racing recently a lot with him. I did a Transpac with him. Did a lot of bigger boat sailing with him. And he's just a complete different person, because like how Capey is holding things for himself, living in his own thing, Will is the guy who's explaining everything. Like all navigators are, they're all wizards with computers. They're fantastic. But he's the person who really can bring all examples forward, does his homework, and in a way to always explaining things very easy. And then Ian Moore, I think, I'm not sure if you know him. He's Soapy. That's, I think, another person who's just a talented sailor as well. And I think that's one of these things why a navigator has to be good. He has to be good on deck as well. because it's not only about navigation, it's as well that sometimes when the shit hits the fan, they have to be coming on deck and they have to give a hand. When we're doing the maneuvers, jibing, tacking, whatever we're doing, they're always fully engaged. And I think that's one of the three things what I know from these guys. It's, yeah, that is just amazing because they don't make a lot of wrong steps. And that's, of course, a guy like Stan Honey. I never really saw, I did one transfect with Stan, but after that, and that was a long time ago. And with Mark, I never sailed. So there is so many good guys. Just a very short example. We had a guy doing the fastnet before the last Volvo Ocean race. He came from Germany, and I've been racing with him on the Swan 45 and on a big super yacht. He's coming from Udall Vrolik, and he's a very smart cookie and just a new generation type of navigator who's having a lot of baggage, knowing how boats getting designed. So, but in general, I think people who you call a navigator, I think they're above average brain-wise because they're all so bloody smart.
It's interesting how you explain some navigators just keep it in and they're in their own world. And then, like I think it was Will Oxley, you said, just explains it, and isn't it better for the crew when you've got a navigator who is kind of sharing what he's seeing and thinking, and doesn't everybody get a bit more involved that way? Or is it too many cooks in the kitchen? You guys get out.
Well, and that is, of course, that's one of the things where you have to work on. And that's, of course, what team briefs are really important. And just to get the message across. And some people can do it with 2 words, and some probably can use a book to explain one situation. So that is a little bit, and it's a matter of adapting as well. And it's always focusing on the things what you're doing. And I think if you get that mix, and it doesn't matter if it is a Will Oxley or Andrew Cape, you have to work with the person what you have, and you have to get the maximum out of that person. And as well, of course, that all your crew members get the max feedback as well, and that they are content what they hear, and that they actually can plan on what has been told and which decisions have been taken.
Fascinating. I could spend all day with you, but we'll go ahead and end this now. One thing I would love to do, though, as this race gets closer and as you guys make some progress, love to check in with you a bit later and talk a little bit about the state of your program and everything going forward from there.
No worries.
That sounds great. Thanks very much.
Okay, take care.
Really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye-bye.